would break it up. We had never been to Hawaii, and that would be like part way, a stop off for us. So we decided we're going to go to, we had our reservations, so there was no problem about that. Oh, the travel agent that we had worked through to get all this fixed up for us, he said, the airlines that you to go on, the pilots have gone on strike. So how are we going to get to Hawaii from Japan? So he was working very hard for us. And we weren't the only ones. There were some other couples too who were in the same boat to go to Hawaii. Well, anyway, he comes to us and he says, "Well, I can get you flights to Hawaii, but the only way I can get them is for you to go to Alaska." So he said, It's fine. You can go to Alaska. You'd have to stay there for a day. And uh, then we could get you from Alaska to Hawaii. Now, can you imagine trying to do this on your own if we didn't have this travel agent? We said, okay, we'll go to Alaska. And because they could get us a flight from Japan to Alaska and then from Alaska to Hawaii. And that's what we did. So we got to Alaska, never thinking we were going there, but we did. Well, we get to Alaska and they have a hotel for us. We have to stay there a day and a half. So they got a hotel for us and we ate, we got meals there. And it was very interesting. We got off the plane coming from Japan. We got off the plane, and here we are. Where do we go now? What do we do? You know, we weren't the only couples. The couple that there were a number of others. So they said, "Well, if you're interested, you're here now. It's daylight. It's daytime. If you'd want to see something of Alaska, we can arrange it for you if you want." We could maybe get a bus for you, you know. Uh, so if you want to, pay for a bus and with a guide and go to see. So we all said, "Oh yeah, sure." So then we're looking around, and then this fellow who we're talking about getting a bus maybe said, "Who's in charge here?" Well, no. So all of a sudden, somebody points to Harold. Why do things like this always fall into our laps? So he said, okay. So they said he said, I'll do whatever you want. So this one fellow said, well, okay, you see how many people would be willing to hire a bus with a guide, and we can take you around Anchorage here where we are, and you can see some things here. So we said, that sounds great, you know. So we get enough people to fill up a bus, and that's what we do. We go around Alaska, and we see very interesting things. Which we had never been to Alaska, but here we are. I think it was about the same as we would expect at that time. So I know we didn't get out any winter coats, but we didn't have any winter coats with us. Well, here we are, and they take us all around. They show us there had been a number of years before that a terrific earthquake there, and here was all this devastation there. They took us to see things like that, so it was very interesting. We did get to see a few things in Alaska. We haven't been there since, or had never been before. Anyway, we went to Alaska, which is our 50th state. You see, that Anchorage is quite a hodgepodge of things. It wasn't very pretty. The mountains had some snow, and we saw what the earthquake of 1964 did to Alaska. That's what. Crossed the international date line again. So we gained a day then. So I put down we had 2 Thursdays because we gained because we crossed the international date line the other way. So we got our day back that we lost. We do very well there in Alaska. They had a room for us, so we went to bed for a couple hours, and then we had to get on a plane to go to Hawaii. because that's where we wanted to go to begin with. So we do that. We get to Hawaii. Everything is fine. So we have about 3 days in Hawaii. And of course, we could swim. We could do all these things. Uh, we got to see the ship that was sunk, at Pearl Harbor. And, we got to. So we were able to get to see all these things, mostly on our own, though. We took a taxi to go to see them. How when would you be there to these places again? Who knows? So anyway, we would hire a taxi. If it was just the two of us, we'd do it. And we got to see, the ship, look down into the ship. It was very, very somber, sad situation there. Uh, anyway, we had some time there to be able to do things like that on our own. We had to. I mean, there wasn't after we saw, or well, we got to Hawaii. We had reservations in Hawaii that we knew because we had made that here in the United States before we left. But we never knew that we'd have to go get to Hawaii by way of Alaska. No, we just stayed at the one. We just thought after doing all this traveling and being this big conference and all this, we just wanted to relax. So we just got to see the Big Island. And we had hotel reservations there. We got to swim and do all these things and we did get over to see, the ship and all that the main important things we did get to see while we were there. And it was very interesting. I've got down here, landed at 5 a.m. Oh, we got taken to a hotel, and there was only the hospitality suite there. There was no room, so we all had to do this. We had a bedroom for a number of people. Well, that was when we first got to Hawaii. That's what it was. But that was when we got to Hawaii, up on the 30th floor. Oh, and they were having a welcoming dinner for us for this whole group that was supposed to be together. We went to a restaurant on on the floor that we had our hotel room in. Anyway, I put down here very elegant. The table on the sunset side, we saw the sun go down and the lights start to come up from the buildings. And finally, the whole city got lighted. We had a prime rib dinner. The next morning, we got up and we had a tour on the minibus of the island of Oahu, a Polynesian cultural village. It was very interesting, and it was run by the Mormon Church. The students were Mormon colleges. The students at the Mormon college worked there. 7 villages set up like the old islands, like the old Hawaiian islands. They had this village set up in Hawaii. Oh, they started to feed us again. And I put down half a pineapple, scooped out, cut up, and topped with sherbet. Doesn't that sound good? Oh, I tasted poi for the first time. Never had, didn't think much of that. Oh, then we went to pineapple fields. They grow a lot of pineapple in Hawaii. We went to pineapple fields. That was very nice. And we spent quite a bit of time seeing these things. And then we didn't know if we had tickets for home or how far we had after we got to the mainland of the United States. Where were we? We felt relieved after we called United Airlines and found a confirmation to Chicago. So we knew if we got to Chicago, we knew we could get home. But we had to leave at 4:30 in the morning. 4:30 p.m. the next day, not 11 o'clock, because here we were, our time-wise was all mixed up. We went to a Christian service in the hotel. That was nice, from 8:30 to 9:30. And the funny part of it was the fellow who was running this service, it was a mission service, and he was a student at a Lutheran seminary. Things always get together for us somehow. Whenever we traveled any place, we met people or did people or something which we could just fall into. Then we walked down to the beach, got our bathing suits, and it started to rain. So we went back to the hotel and we dressed and checked out before 12 o'clock. Suitcases in the lobby, hand luggage and jackets in the hospitality lockers. we took, and I wrote in capital letters, the bus to Pearl Harbor, to the site of the bombing. So we did go to Pearl Harbor, and there we saw the Arizona Memorial, which was very everybody there was very quiet and subdued, and they all felt that this was a solemn place. Well, we decided we had to get back to get a raincoats, but luckily we had, whenever we traveled like that, we took these totes, raincoats, and folded up into a little square, and you could put them in. We always carried one of those with us, which we had with us when this cloudburst came. So we didn't mind. Oh, the bus didn't come along that we were supposed to take. So we found a taxi, and we took the taxi because we were afraid we'd be late for our pickup to go to the airport. We had many interesting things in Honolulu. About 11 o'clock in the morning, we were back on the plane because we still had to go home. So we had, a day, 2 days, 3 days in Hawaii. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. We had, they served us champagne. And I wrote down here, is it morning? Is it afternoon? What is it? So we said, going from Rochester to Islip was nothing compared to going from Japan to Honolulu by way of Anchorage, Alaska. We had to go on a different airline, I guess. It's a good thing we had someone working for us, a travel agent who knew what he was doing. Can you imagine if we tried to do this on our own? We left 20 minutes late, but United Airlines, which we were flying then, was checking our luggage bag right through from New York, from Chicago on TWA. So they put us onto a different airline. They checked our bags. Everything worked out for us. Don't ask me how, but it did. And then we were able to get home finally from that trip. You see, we've had some very interesting experiences.